special, thank you. Okay, let's get that party started somehow. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Very odd with this friend in front of my face. The microphone, I should give it a name because it's going to be very close to me. I don't like to have just objects very close to me. I like to be more close to actual beings, I guess. Okay. Let me get this so I can have something to put my little notes on. All right. Hello, everyone. So wonderful to see you all. Again, my name is Sophie. And I'd like to start by us all closing our eyes if we feel comfortable. And take a couple of deep breaths, exactly. Maybe you can feel the vibrations that we just developed through this wonderful music meditation. A couple deep breaths in and out through your nose. Maybe checking in with your mind, how your mind feels tonight. Maybe it's all over the place. Maybe it's not anywhere in particular. Just kind of checking in. And then check in with your heart. Where's your heart tonight? Maybe you can find one emotion to describe your current feelings. And then check in with your body. Just kind of notice your body and space. And then let that go. And since we all really just went into experiencing all these vibrations, let's continue them, and let's all close with a collective Om. So everybody inhale and exhale Om. Great. All right. You can open your eyes. So actually, the Om has actually 3 syllabi. And these are A, U, and M. So why don't we try this again? In Sanskrit, Om, these 3 syllabi, actually means, it's a universal vibration. And it kind of means the calling out to the Supreme, to the all-powerful consciousness. So why don't we say its name correctly and do the Om again, but this time with like ow, really kind of going through all the 3 letters. Okay? So again, close your eyes, kind of check in. Everybody inhale. And then exhale. Wonderful. All right, and open our eyes. Good. So I want to talk about something that I kind of struggle in my everyday life with, which is not being sure what's happening next, the feeling of uncertainty. And we are at the end of this year, at least I'm thinking calendar year, so there's a whole nother year in front of us with potentially a lot of uncertainties. Right? Maybe any of you graduating, maybe next or this semester? Yes, one. So there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of, right, yes, where that is going, but yes, absolutely, good step, awesome step. And then, right, we have the end of the year. Maybe some of you are still thinking or very uncertain about what the end of the year party is going to look like, right? And really, we kind of are uncertain if we ever actually are even going to make it there. We don't really think about that, but that is actually a reality, right? So what are some of the uncertainties you are all maybe grappling with? Anybody wants to share some uncertainties, small or big?
Will I ever tame my mind?
Okay.
Overthinking.
You thinking a lot, really? Okay. Taming the mind seems to be quite the beast. There was a hand up there.
Will I have enough energy when I work full time?
Yeah, good concrete question. Absolutely. Okay, Teresa?
That's a good one. Will I get into my graduate school?
Will I get into graduate school? Yeah. So can anybody maybe relate to some form of uncertainty you have in your life? It's something that it's not only me that has uncertainties. Yes. Good. Thank you. Making me feel better. That helps. Now, are uncertainties always negative? So what are some positive examples of uncertainties?
Yeah.
What's for dinner?
So here, for certain, it will be delicious. So there we go, right? That can be something positive. Okay, good. What are some other things? Yeah?
If you enjoy sports or competition, the fun is not knowing the outcome.
Yes, absolutely, right? With movies as well, right? Some of you maybe like action movies. Seems to actually that you enjoy the uncertainty, kind of, right? Well, when we look at the research, it turns out that a lot of the uncertainty that we seem to enjoy is actually what we really enjoy is when the uncertainty is over. So when our team wins, when the hero is winning and the villain gets what they deserve. So basically when that tension that we've built up actually comes to a resolution. That's actually what we enjoy. So generally just the feeling of uncertainty is something that we don't necessarily enjoy. That actually we have more negative feelings too. Now there's individual differences in terms of how much we can tolerate uncertainty, but it's generally one of those things that we're not seeking out. It's not like, what's for dinner tonight? Uncertainty, I love it, right? It's not really a thing that we're going for. And so what is the main feeling that's associated with uncertainty?
Fear.
Fear.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Stress, yeah.
Depression, sadness, gloominess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Totally. And that's also what the research shows, specifically related to anxiety, depression, kind of the two main things. And so, since you all shared that you all seem to have something that you're uncertain about, and uncertainties related to anxiety, I thought I'll share with you 3 things of how we can better deal with our uncertainty and get rid of this anxiety that's associated with it. Does it sound like a good plan? Well, so it happens to be that the 3 things that I came up with can be summarized with the acronym OM. Mind blown. Just wait for it until you hear what it's all about. So, starting with A. What do you think A could be?
Attitude.
Attitude,
Affirmation.
close, affirmation.
Address.
Acceptance. Acceptance. So we're starting off with A, when we're dealing with uncertainty, with acceptance. We first have to really get to a point to accept that we can't control what's happening all the time. And that is harder said than done, but really it's kind of like the little kid that doesn't get what they want and they're just not accepting it. What do? They start screaming, they start like stumping their foot on the floor, and maybe in the middle of the grocery store, there's complete on, right, fall on the floor and just scream as loud as they can so that everybody's like, oh my God, what a horrible mother this person is, right? Like this whole thing. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with the mother. It's just, that's what kids do when they don't accept what they can't get. And sometimes we kind of do the same thing, right? At least I do. I kind of kick and scream, like, no, I can't control it. I just have to try harder. But no, I have to accept that I can't. Just step 1, just accepting that there are some things that I can't control. They're just not up to me. And so that's kind of the very neutral starting point, acceptance. Because when we don't accept, we continue to trying to control and kind of get into this downward spiral of really leading more into misery and misery where we can't really see straight anymore. And the only thing to see is just going down that anxiety, depressing hole. And so we have to start with acceptance to kind of stop, right? And kind of stop the process. Be like, okay, I'm going to accept I can't control this. All right. But now I can stand. Now I can see things maybe a little bit clearer. And now I can maybe move on. but that's really kind of the first step. Now, because my mind works in the way that I don't like to just accept things without knowing why, we have to move on to the U. What is the U standing for? Understanding, right? We have to understand. You have to understand, why are we not in control of all the things? And I can just control that I'm going to get this job that I want, and I can control that I have all the energy that I need to work full time. Like, I need to understand why that is the case. And so in order to understand that, actually going to some of the ancient Vedic scriptures helps us a great deal, because in order to kind of lure or quiet our anxiety, what obviously would be helpful is to find something that is certain that we can rely on, right? Rather than trying to figure out that uncertainty. And so the Vedic scriptures actually give us two things that help us with this understanding that there is actually something certain. And so the main thing is that the explanation for why there is this uncertainty in life is that the material life is actually, this material world that we live in, is actually full of dualities. Can you give me some dualities?
Good and evil.
Good and evil.
Yin yang.
Yin yang, okay. Make it even concrete, like in your
Day
life.
and night.
Happiness and pain. What was the other one?
Day and night.
Day and night, hot and cold. Okay, good. Yeah.
Ups and downs.
Ups and downs, yes. Emotionally up and down. Good. Yeah. Right, there's suffering, there's distress, there's heat, there's cold, there's hunger, there's obesity on the other end, right? I mean, going a little bit more extreme. But there's always this duality. And so when there are dualities, that means that at any second we can fall in either and be in pain. I can either be hot or I can be cold. Like right now I'm really hot, but outside it was freezing cold. So it's like, I can't control this whole situation. Sure, you could say, well, you can take your sweater off. Yeah, and then I have to put it back on when I'm outside. Sure. But still, there is this reality in me that I can't really just push a button and now I'm feeling really comfortable. Right? It's like a whole process. I'm not really completely in control of it. And so that is the duality of this material world that really provides the space for uncertainty to happen. And uncertainty with that anxiety, because we don't know what's happening next. And so one thing, however, that is certain that the ancient texts talk about is that part of us, one particular part of us, is actually free from those dualities. Anybody an idea what that is? The soul, the consciousness, that thing that's not our body, right? That is actually free from duality, and it has specific attributes. It has the attributes of, what are the three attributes of our consciousness? Who knows it? Eternal, blissful,
Non-knowledgeable.
and full of knowledge. So here's the thing. When we have this thing that's actually free of duality, it is already at actually a perfect state. That's actually perfect state. And it is eternal. So there is no, I'm going to die soon. There's just none of that. And there is a fullness of knowledge, not only knowledge about, your next physics exam, but the knowledge of what our actual true purpose in life is. And that is related to the second point that's also for certain, which is based on the yogic science, that is, there is actually a supreme consciousness. There's a super soul that actually has our best interest at heart. And it has actually a great desire, the desire to connect with our eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge consciousness all the time. And so knowing these two things, that actually there's a part of me that's free of those dualities, and that there's some power, some super soul, some supreme being out there that actually has my best interest at heart, knowing these two things now can give me a little bit more peacefulness in knowing that, okay, I don't need to figure out how to control this duality. I just need to figure out how to connect back to my true self, to my higher consciousness, and then to that super soul, to that supreme being that has all the certainty in the world, that has all that I'm striving for. And so that leads us to the third point, the third strategy, which is M. And M stands for motivation. Knowing that there is this part of me that's free of the dualities, can get me motivated now to actually take action. Because a lot of times what happens when we are uncertain is that we get in this stupor of, well, I can't do anything about it anyway, so I might as well sit at the couch and just be in my misery, right? And we just kind of get in this, well, I can't do anything. If I'm not in control, then I might as well not do anything. But that's not really helping anybody. And so once we have this understanding that actually there is this part that's free of duality, how can I connect further to that? And so we should then, or naturally there should come, or what will be coming, I'm not telling you anything that should, it actually does, naturally comes a motivation to figure this out more and connect more with that soul, connect more with that super soul, and find out more what our really inner nature is that is free of that duality, and therefore get free of that uncertainty. And so in practice, what that means is we can do what we're doing right now, really, which is gathering with like-minded people. We can learn more about that supreme being, that super soul that actually does have our best interest at heart, and we can practice meditation to connect back to what our true self is. These are kind of concrete practices we can do, but in our everyday life, right, when you are in this situation, you're kind of freaking out because you don't know what's going to happen if you get this job once you graduated, or you don't know if you get in grad school and you're just freaking out because what's my future going to hold. There is still a couple of things that we can do that also quiet our anxiety, and that is, instead of focusing on the goal, so the graduate school, that's the goal, focusing on getting a job, focusing on that energy, how can I focus more on the process? So, right, how can we kind of motivate ourselves to give up our attachment to the results that we're striving for, but really focus on the process at hand? So thinking about the job application or finding that dream job. Instead of focusing on, oh my God, am I going to find this job and what's happening if I don't get this job? How about I'm putting all my motivation and effort into the process of writing the best application ever? Right? How about for grad school? I'm putting all my effort in. I'm not going on the skiing vacation, and I'm not meeting with my friends, because no, I'm really focusing on this one process that I do have control over, which is putting all my effort into writing that best application. If I'm actually getting that job or not, it's not really then in my hand anymore, but at least I can tell myself I did the best that I can. And a lot of times when we're dealing with uncertainty, we kind of get lost in just focusing on those results and focusing on what's happening if I don't get that thing. But there is, besides the practice of focusing back on who we are and focusing on that higher truth that is, again, free of duality and therefore free of uncertainty, we can still focus on just doing what we're supposed to be doing, and which is, right, the process, really focusing on those things of the process. Like other examples, maybe you're not really a fan of doing cardio workout and do like a cycling class, right? But it's really good for your heart, and you want to have a good heart for your grandkids. Now, you don't know if you will be getting a heart attack or not. It's not in our control. But it is in our control to just push through, go on that bike, sweat our butts off, be uncomfortable, and just give our best. Right? Give our best shot. For the exam, we're studying for the exam. We don't know, maybe the professor is like having a bad day and giving us a bad exam. Right? We're not in control of that. But what I'm in control of, I can study as much as I can. Right? Being a teacher, I can only put as much as I can into my classes, but it's not really up to me to know what the evaluations of my students will be, because they may be judging my outfit and not what I teach them. Like, that's not in my control, but I can focus on giving the best knowledge that I can. And so these are kind of a couple of processes that then help us to kind of feel like we're back in control without, however, losing the understanding that the end goal is something we shouldn't really attach to, because if we do that, we're going to be in misery again. So really trying to give up the attachment to the results, but still really being motivated on the things that we can do. So Pop Chris, what are the 3 things that now are the strategies that you can apply in your everyday life to deal with uncertainty? Number 1? A for acceptance. It is what it is, right? We are not in control of everything. Number 2?
Understanding.
Good, understanding. What are the two things that I need to understand?
Acceptance, understanding.
Yes, what are the two things we need to understand?
Oh, excuse me.
I know it's getting to grad level now. Listen. Two things we need to understand. What are
Super
two-
soul.
we are the soul. Yep, we are the consciousness that's free of duality.
And there's the higher.
And there's a higher consciousness. There's a super soul, right? That's also free from duality. These are two things that are certain. And you can be like, oh, what she's talking about there? That's certain. Well, these are kind of one of those things that obviously you can go and read all the Vedas and read all the scriptures, so you get kind of a text reference. You get science. It shows it to you. You can also experience it for yourself, but you have to try. Just like with any experiment, if you don't believe the researcher, you got to do your experiment for yourself. So you can actually experience that you are higher consciousness, and you can experience that there's an origin of that consciousness. You just kind of have to step into the process. Part of being here is actually stepping into that process to figure that out, to experience it for yourself. And so then the third part, M, what does it stand for?
Motivation.
And what does that mean?
Do your duty without attachment.
There we go. Do your duty without your attachment. Good. And so here we go. Now, the universal sound vibration, Aum, seems to be actually helping us with our uncertainty. Isn't that wild? So to kind of hone in onto that, I thought we'll do another little experience. And so I want you all to get a comfortable seat. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes and find that one thing that is uncertain in your life right now that you kind of grapple with. Okay, find that kind of one thing. And then once you have that thing that you struggle with right now, see if you can just give up the control over the results. Just in your mind, can you just kind of give up that control over that result? And then we want to practice trusting that and reconnecting to that source that actually will have our best interest at heart. That from a bigger picture, actually our life story with all those uncertainties does make sense. So I want us all from really the bottom of our heart say the mantra we have been saying. I'm going to repeat it to you in short phrases so we can really get into it. So really connect with your heart space and see how much you can really focus your heart into trusting the source that has your best interest at heart and that you already know everything that you need to know by connecting to your own soul, your own consciousness. So here we go. Just repeat what I say. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
One more. Hare Krishna. Louder.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Bo. We have some time for questions.
Yes.
So my biggest thing for me is like the letting go.
Mm-hmm.
I think within the last year, I mean, I can even drive and I'm just like melting and crying and like, but, and the more I let go, the more I feel like I need to hold on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in that struggle right now. And I don't even want to call it struggle, I think it's too strong, but...
Can anybody relate? That's not only you, that's the wild thing. There you see you have the duality. You letting go and you freaking out, so you're trying to hold it back in, right?
Yes.
It's that duality, but that's the process. So you're doing the process. So every time you're letting go a little bit more, holding on, letting go a little bit more, holding on, letting go a little bit more. Okay? So it's a gradual process. It's 2 steps down, 1 step back, 2 steps down, 1 step back. You're still stepping down. still going down. So you're making progress. So it's awesome. It's amazing. Really, yeah. Applaud you for your progress because it's so hard. It's so hard.
So one thing is regarding acceptance is not an easy thing. So accepting people as is or accepting situation as is, it's not an easy thing because we have likes and dislikes. That's our karmic library. I hate this thing. I like this. I want this. I don't want this. That duality thing. But I think the root cause is we have to lower our expectation because the expectation is the main thing because we expect something or we avoid something. Expectation is like I don't want. Expectation is the main thing. I think we should lower our expectation. Let it go. Whatever comes, let it come. Whatever goes, let it go. I am happy.
Yeah, good. Yeah, lower expectations. But have goals, but not being attached, basically not having expectations that will happen. But that will drive us forward, and then having an attitude of humility, just go through whatever happens. Yeah, really good comment. Thank you.
What about if you don't have motivation to figure out uncertainty or even to face uncertainty? What about if you you went through so hard and then you just suddenly lost your passion or whatever and suddenly oh, why do I have to? And then if it's uncertain, you know what I mean?
And so there you already have your answer, right? So I think for motivation to happen, understanding needs to be there first. So if you have that question of why, then that's what would be the first thing to dig into further. Understanding what's going on. Why is this going on? Only when we have a proper understanding of what's going on, like why are we feeling in a certain way, or why are things happening, and you can look at that from a micro or macro perspective. Once there is an understanding, there's a click in our consciousness and our brains that then lead us automatically to be again more motivated to actually do something about it. So if you feel demotivated because you just feel like everything is just poopy and nothing's happening like how I want it, can you ask questions of why? Can you ask specific questions related to your specific situations and see if you can find answers? Read, right? Obviously, spiritual literature, depending on what your issue is. There's obviously better text than others or better resources to go to, but that would be my first go-to is understanding, is getting into that knowledge that will automatically then unflip the motivation again.
Then how do you actually really understand?
How do you really understand? Well,
what's your process? I mean, yeah.
Really asking questions. If I'm reading something that sounds like, gibberish to me, I'm trying to find a person that can translate it to me so I understand. And trying to get into an attitude of curiosity, of really even just asking the mundane, why is the tree green? Why is it not purple? Okay, let me go and talk to a botanist. I'm sure they have an answer for that. So there's no stupid question. I mean, I know that's like a typical teacher thing of there's no stupid questions. Well, there are some, but and just having that in your mind, like there's no stupid question, and just asking yourself. Some questions we can answer ourselves. We just have to ask them first.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think we're moving on to our third part of our program. So thank you again.